I was knee-deep in case files, chewing a dead pen and drowning in stale office air, when Lily's name lit up my phone screen. FaceTime. I smiled, probably another souvenir update. She loved to show off the little trinkets she bartered for, but when I answered, the grin vanished. No market, no bracelet, just my daughter, sitting stiff on a hotel bed, her face pale, voice paper thin. Mom, can I tell you something without you freaking out? Spoiler, I freaked out. Not on the outside, but inside? Full system failure. She flipped the camera. Her leg was propped on a pillow, swollen, discolored, the skin stretched unnaturally tight. I think I broke it, she whispered. And then came the part that made my stomach twist. I fell yesterday. They said it was nothing, and made me walk. For hours. That was the moment I stopped being scared of flying, and started being terrified of what they'd done to her. I didn't even realize I had stood up until I felt the edge of my desk against my thighs. My pulse was thundering in my ears. Who's seen it? I asked, my voice too calm, too flat. Lily shifted. Grandma, Grandpa, Uncle Brian. And they didn't take you to a hospital? They said it wasn't that bad. It didn't look swollen yesterday. They thought I was just bruised. I had to sit back down. Not because I was tired, but because gravity suddenly felt heavier. You walked on that leg? 3 hours, she said. Maybe a little more. Her tone was detached, matter of fact. They said I was being dramatic, that I'd feel better once the tour ended. That sentence made me sick. And now? It hurts worse. A lot worse. I looked at her, really looked, and saw what I'd missed at first. The tightness in her mouth, the sheen in her eyes, the slight tremble in her fingers. She was trying not to cry. Not because she wasn't in pain, but because she didn't want to ruin the trip. I took a breath. Where are they now? They went out again, she said. Said I could rest. You're alone? She nodded. It's okay. It wasn't. I'm coming, I said, grabbing my laptop. You don't have to. I do. She hesitated. But you'd have to fly. I know. I was already searching flights. Mom, she whispered. You haven't flown since. I know. I found one. One seat. 90 minutes to departure. No time for fear. No time to hesitate. I booked it. Then I called my parents. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. I called Brian. He picked up, cheerful. Hey, what's up? You left Lily alone in a hotel room, with a possibly broken leg. There was a pause. She said she was fine. She can't walk. She's always been a little sensitive. It's probably just a sprain. The swelling started last night. You made her walk for 3 hours. We didn't make her. She's 15. She told you it hurt and you left her. She said she wanted to rest. I hung up. There was no point arguing with people who built their reality around their own convenience. I threw everything I needed into a bag, slammed my laptop shut, and rushed down the hallway. My boss looked up from his desk as I stormed past. Claire? Where are you going? Family emergency. What kind? The kind where I leave right now. He opened his mouth. I didn't wait to hear it. In the elevator, I ordered a cab. In the cab, I texted Lily. I'm coming. Don't pack. Don't walk. Stay in bed. She sent a heart emoji. I stared at it the entire ride to the airport, clutching my phone like a lifeline. I hadn't flown in over 10 years. But this wasn't about me anymore. This was about my daughter. And the line they had finally, irrevocably, crossed. The airport smelled like jet fuel and bad coffee, two of my least favorite things. My palms were already slick with sweat, and I hadn't even passed security. I kept hearing my mother's voice in my head. You really need to grow out of this. She said it when I was 10, sobbing through turbulence on a flight to Florida. I had my hands clamped around the tray table like it could save me. My older brother Brian filmed me on his dad's camcorder, zooming in on my tear-streaked face, adding fake screaming noises later in iMovie. He played it at Thanksgiving. Everyone laughed. That was the year they started calling me drama queen. I never flew again, not because I was being dramatic, but because no one cared why I was scared. They just cared that I made them uncomfortable. So, I stopped putting myself in positions where people could see me panic. But now, sitting stiff in a metal seat, buckling my belt with trembling hands, I didn't have the option of hiding anymore. The woman next to me was already asleep, head tilted to the side, a bag of pretzels on her chest. I envied her. Every bump in the taxi made my stomach twist. Every ding, every shift in the cabin pressure, I braced like we were going down. But I didn't make a sound. Because this wasn't about fear. This was about Lily. And what they did to her. I stared out the window, the lights below shrinking as we ascended, and let the fury replace the fear. It was a strange kind of fuel cold, quiet, focused. They said she was being too sensitive. They said she was just like me. They said it like it was an insult. Like noticing pain or asking for help made her weak. Brian could stub his toe and get carried home like he'd been shot. Meanwhile, I once fainted during a hike from heat exhaustion and was told to toughen up. The rules had always been different. Still were. I used to think if I worked hard enough, built a stable career, became someone logical, someone objective, they'd finally see me differently, that I'd prove them wrong. But I've come to realize something. You can't prove your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. And you shouldn't have to. Especially not when the cost is your daughter's broken leg and a smile that's too tired for her age. So I sat still. Silent. While the plane took me toward her. Toward the child they tried to silence. The one they told was too much. Just like they told me. But I know the truth. She's not too much. She's mine. And that means she's just right. By the time the plane landed, I was exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. My muscles were tight, my jaw sore from clenching. I barely remembered the cab ride, just the hum of traffic, and the way my fingers couldn't stop fidgeting with the zipper on my bag. The hotel wasn't fancy. Mid-range chain, beige everything. I knocked once. The door opened slowly. Lily stood there in oversized pajamas, hair tangled on one side, eyes rimmed with purple. She looked older somehow, like a kid who'd learned something too soon. "You actually came," she said quietly. "Not thank you. Not finally. Just surprise." Like she hadn't believed it until now. That broke something in me. I stepped forward and wrapped my arms around her carefully, avoiding her leg. Her whole body was warm and trembling. "Of course I came," I whispered. "You're the only person on this planet who could get me on a plane." "Don't make me do it again," I added, half laughing through the sting in my chest. She smiled a little, then winced. Okay, she said, pulling back. "Ow." I glanced down. Her right foot was bare and swollen, still propped up on a pillow. The skin around her ankle was tight, discolored, stretched like a balloon about to pop. "Shoes?" I asked. "One, maybe." It took us 15 minutes just to get the good one on. Half that time was arguing over whether she needed both. She didn't. While I tied the laces, I asked almost absent-mindedly, "So, how exactly did it happen? You said you fell on the stairs?" I expected something sheepish. I tripped. Slippery steps. Something innocent. Instead, she went quiet. Her fingers tightened around the pillow. "It wasn't really a fall," she said. I looked up. "What do you mean?" "It was Jake. He pushed me. As a joke." My hands froze. "He didn't mean to," she added quickly. "I was taking a picture at the top of the stairs like I do all the time, and he shoved me, just like he always does. Only this time, I missed a step." I stood up slowly. "They saw it?" I asked. She nodded. "All of them. Uncle Brian, Grandma, Grandpa. They were right there." "And they didn't say anything?" "Grandma said I was being dramatic. Uncle Brian told me to stop crying because I was scaring the tourists. Grandpa asked if I'd twisted it before the trip." My chest burned. "And you didn't tell me this on the call because..." She hesitated. Because I thought it would go away. And because I didn't want to make a thing out of it. I didn't want to get Jake in trouble. I knelt in front of her, met her eyes. Lily, someone pushes you down a flight of stairs, and your leg swells up like that. You don't protect them, not even if they're family. She looked down. Especially if they're family, I said softly. That's when it matters most. She didn't answer, but I saw the message sink in. Her face didn't change, but her shoulders settled just slightly like something heavy had been removed. When the hospital staff later asked what happened, I would watch her tell the truth. No edits. No apologies. Just the facts. And I'd be there beside her every word of the way. The waiting room was too bright. That kind of artificial light that makes everything feel worse. Like the world is pretending to be clean and calm while everything inside you is falling apart. I told the front desk nurse that I believed my daughter had a broken leg. She looked up at Lily pale, leaning heavily on me, one shoe on, one off, and waved us back without asking many questions. The exam room smelled like disinfectant and paper. Lily sat on the table, biting the inside of her cheek. I sat in the chair next to her, hands folded, trying to look composed. The nurse asked the usual. Name, age, pain level, allergies. Lily answered softly. Then came the question. What happened? She glanced at me just once, then back to the nurse. My cousin pushed me, she said. As a joke, I fell down a flight of stairs. Her voice didn't waver. She didn't cry. She didn't look for approval. She just told the truth. The nurse didn't blink, but her pen started moving faster. 20 minutes later, a doctor stepped in holding a chart. Tibia fracture, he said. Non-displaced, which is lucky. If she'd walked on it much longer. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. I finished it in my head with a slideshow of worst-case scenarios and what-ifs that made my teeth clench. He explained the treatment. Temporary splint now, cast later. Crutches, pain management, healing time. But all I could hear was Lily's voice saying, I didn't want to get him in trouble. I didn't want to ruin the trip. I waited until the doctor stepped out. Then I turned to her. Tell me everything, I said, start to finish. And she did. After she hit the bottom of the stairs, she was crying. She begged to go to a hospital. They said there wasn't time. Tickets for the walking tour were non-refundable. They told her to ice it at the end of the day. Then made her walk for 3 more hours. The next morning, when she said she couldn't move, they told her she could stay in the hotel while they went on to a winery. They said someone had to stay with the kids, she said. So, they left me. My jaw locked. Even Jake? I asked. She nodded. Even Jake. I stared at her. Did they say anything else? She hesitated. They said I was acting like you. That stopped my breath. Like me? She nodded, eyes on the floor. Too emotional. Overreacting. A drama queen. I felt heat rise in my throat, anger, old and new, colliding in the same space. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about neglect. This was about pattern. They weren't just ignoring her pain. They were repeating mine, projecting every ounce of misunderstanding, dismissal, cruelty from my childhood onto her. And I wasn't going to let it happen. Not again. I stood, stepped into the hallway, and dialed my father's number. He picked up on the 3rd ring. Is she okay? He asked, not because he cared, but because he knew I was about to find out everything. She has a fracture, I said. The doctor confirmed it. There was a pause. Well, it didn't look that bad at the time. Jake pushed her. That's not really fair. He was just playing around. You saw it happen, I said. All of you. And you walked away. He went quiet. I'm pressing charges, I said. The line was dead silent for 3 seconds. Then, Claire, come on. You're going to drag the whole family into court over this? Yes. You're being irrational. No, I said, my voice steel. I'm being a mother. And then I hung up. Back in the hospital room, Lily looked at me with that quiet, steady expression of hers. Was that Grandpa? She asked. Yeah, I said, sitting beside her again. What did he say? I smiled faintly. That I was being irrational. She blinked. You were right, she said. And she laughed a dry, exhausted kind of laugh. But it was real. Later that night, when Lily had finally fallen asleep on the couch in our hotel suite, I opened my notes app and typed the words slowly, deliberately. Request legal consultation. Medical neglect. Possible child endangerment. Because this wasn't just a parenting failure. This was a line. A line they'd crossed with me for years, and now with her. And I wasn't going to let them erase her voice the way they'd tried to erase mine. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of adrenaline or anger, but because my mind kept tracing back over every timeline, every document, every law. I built a case in my head the way I built them for work. It wasn't revenge. It was responsibility. But still, the guilt crept in. Was I really going to take my own parents to court? What would people say? The next morning, I got my answer. A text from a tourist who had overheard us at the ER. They'd been filming near the stairs that day, and yes, there it was. The video. Lily smiling at the top step, camera in hand. Jake charges from behind, pushes her elbow. She stumbles, falls. And in the background? 3 adults. Brian, Linda, Charles. They just watched. No one ran, no one yelled, no one even flinched. I forwarded it to my lawyer. She replied with a thumbs up emoji. We've got them. Filing the case meant flying home, then back again. It meant hearings, interviews, paperwork. And the moment I booked that first return flight, Lily looked up from her cereal bowl and said, "You're flying again?" "Looks like it." "Willingly?" "Not willingly," I smiled. "But I'm not frozen anymore." She nodded slowly. "It's like exposure therapy." "More like revenge exposure therapy," I said. Apparently, maternal rage overrides fear of crashing. And then, the backlash began. Brian showed up first. At my door, arms crossed. That smug face like he was still quarterback of the Dawson family. "You're really doing this?" he barked. "Yes. You're going to destroy us. You know that, right? You should have thought of that before you left a child with a fractured leg in a hotel room." He tried to shout. I closed the door in his face. Then came my parents. Together always, a sign they'd rehearsed. My mother led with guilt. "Claire, we're your parents. You can't take us to court. What will people think?" My father tried logic. "Drop it now and we can move on." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I looked at them and said clearly, "You watched my daughter fall. You laughed when she cried. You made her walk 3 hours on a broken leg. I'm not dropping anything." They left in a huff. But they weren't done. The phone calls started next. Aunt Janine, Cousin Rachel, even Uncle Marty, who hadn't called me since 2007. "Your mom's a wreck. Brian could lose his job. Can't you just let it go? Don't do this to the family." So I did something I never used to do. I told them the truth. I sent them the X-rays, the footage, the timeline. One by one. And somewhere around the 4th call, the tide began to turn. Wait, she was really hurt? They left her alone? The calls stopped. Just stopped. No more pleading. No more excuses. Just silence. The kind I could finally breathe in. The courtroom wasn't like TV. There were no shouting matches, no slammed gavels, no dramatic gasps from the back row. Just a tired judge in wire-rimmed glasses, a stenographer with red nails, and the quiet shuffle of paperwork being passed between lawyers. Still, it felt monumental. My lawyer laid out the facts with clinical precision X-rays, timestamps, Lily's medical records, the video clip, and a written statement from the ER nurse. She never raised her voice. She didn't have to. The evidence did the talking. Across the room, Brian sat stiffly, arms crossed like he was back in high school detention. My parents whispered occasionally, but didn't look at me once. They thought I'd back down, that I'd blink, that I'd flinch under the weight of being the one who turned on the family. But I didn't. I sat with my hands folded in my lap and let the system do what it was supposed to do. The ruling came at 2:40, 6 p.m. Child endangerment. Medical neglect. Failure to report injury. All three, Brian, Linda, and Charles, were entered into the official record. No jail time. But the fines? They were steep. The kind that sting. The kind that follow you around for years. Brian's face went pale when the numbers were read aloud. But it got worse. His employer in elementary school, where he taught physical education, didn't take kindly to the conviction. 2 weeks later, he was fired. Apparently, schools don't want staff with a record involving child harm. My parents didn't say a word about the judgment. Not in court, not after. But I heard through a cousin that they had to move. Smaller house, rougher neighborhood. My mom called it temporary, but I knew better. A month later, another message came through the grapevine. They were behind on rent. They needed help. They didn't ask me. They knew better. I had stopped the quiet deposits, closed the just-in-case account. No more birthday checks, no more help with groceries, no more guilt-covered bribes disguised as support. I didn't tell Lily any of it. Not at first. I didn't want her to think this was about revenge. Because it wasn't. It was about truth. About making sure she saw what happens when people cross a line, and that she knew, deep in her bones, that someone would stand up for her even when it was inconvenient. Even when it was family. Especially when it was family. Lily got quieter after the court ruling. Not withdrawn, just steadier. More grounded. She no longer second-guessed her instincts. No more apologizing for her feelings. No more asking, "Is it okay if I," before stating how she felt. Something in her had clicked into place. One night, while we were folding laundry in the living room, she held up a sock and said, "I think I would have just let it go." I looked up. "I know," I said. "But I'm glad you didn't." She nodded, almost to herself. "You shouldn't have to scream to be taken seriously." That line stayed with me. You shouldn't have to scream. All those years, I thought the problem was my voice too soft, too reactive, too much. But the problem wasn't me. It was the people who only listened to pain when it became undeniable. And I didn't want Lily to grow up shrinking herself to fit other people's comfort zones. A few days later, she showed me a message on her phone. It was from Jake. "Hey. I know this is late, but I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have pushed you, even as a joke. I was trying to be funny. It was stupid. I feel awful. I hope your leg is healing okay." She didn't cry, didn't type anything. Just stared at the screen for a long time. "You believe him?" I asked gently. She shrugged. "Yeah, I think so. I don't think anyone made him send it." And I believed her. Her leg was fine now. Fully healed. No lasting damage, at least physically. Emotionally, though? There was a new scar. But it wasn't an open wound anymore. It was something she carried with quiet clarity, like armor. We didn't talk to the rest of the family after the trial. I didn't block them. I didn't post anything. I just stopped replying. Stopped explaining. Stopped hoping they'd one day wake up and say, "We were wrong, we're sorry." I didn't need it. Neither did Lily. We moved on without fireworks or closure, just silence. And for the first time in my life, that silence felt like peace. I still hate flying. I always will. But I've done it again multiple times. For follow-up hearings, for work, and once, just for us. A mother-daughter weekend in Vermont. Cold mornings, thick socks, hot cocoa. Every time the plane lifts off, my palms still sweat. My stomach flips. But I go. Because now, I don't fly to prove anything. I fly because I can. And every time I land, I remember the first time standing outside that hotel room, hearing Lily say, "You actually came." and knowing that no matter how far or hard it gets, I always will. Sometimes, people ask me if I regret it. Taking it to court, cutting ties, letting it all burn instead of just letting it go. And I tell them this: if I hadn't, Lily would have learned that silence is safer than truth. That being easy is more important than being heard. That family gets to hurt you as long as they do it quietly. But now? Now she knows better. She knows her voice matters, even if it shakes. She knows pain isn't weakness. She knows love doesn't mean tolerating disrespect, especially not from the people who claim to love you the most. I didn't teach her that with lectures or bedtime stories. I taught her by showing up, by flying when I swore I couldn't, by drawing a line in the sand and saying, this far, and no further. Some people might call that dramatic. I call it being a mother. And I'd do it all again. Every hearing, every flight, every broken thread that led to this quiet, peaceful life we now get to protect. Not because I wanted to make a point, but because I finally realized you don't have to set yourself on fire just to keep a broken family warm.